The GOAT finally completes the Grand Slam, and what's actually next for the man he defeated? Beyond that, it wasn't even the only title change from this week's Raw and Smackdown action. It's time to break down everything that happened, all the storytelling from this week's WWE shows. Let's get into it. We're on an absolute roll here. I think this is about 6 straight weeks of the 3-man booth. Welcome in, guys. Daz, how we doing?
I am locked and loaded to spend the evening just being in awe of the greatest of all time for what will be one of the last times ever.
I know. I feel as every time we caveat how much we're enjoying things, we're going to have to then say, but there is now only 3 left. Ross, how are you on this fine Tuesday evening in the west of Scotland?
Very happy to see that John Cena now joins an illustrious cohort such as Kofi Kingston as a Grand Slam champion. Great to be back, boys.
Kofi catching strays, nice.
So as usual, we are in a regularly scheduled programming this week. We have Smackdown, we have Raw, we have no extra shows. There is no prediction show this week. We're going to try and rattle through Smackdown in about 6 minutes and then spend the rest of the time talking about John Cena and how great he is. Start with Smackdown. And I'm just going to quickly gloss over the opening to the show, Daz, before we come to you for the first match. As much as hearing Kingdom opening my Friday night annoys me, it's a 10-minute promo, out the way quickly, none of this dragging out, which maybe SmackDown. Clearly Hunter, as we've said, is watching the show. He's also listened to the How to Fix SmackDown for a few weeks ago. But then we had an absolute banger again in the US Open Challenge where this felt a wee bit like a black and gold type match, almost. Obviously, it's easy to say that when it's Gargano, but it was just, I mean, I feel as though every week we're seeing somebody else. It's like, how are they going to end this eventually? Because Gargano probably wasn't the guy, but having watched him, I'm like, maybe.
I was just delaying to the point where Tommaso Ciampa is the guy, possibly. Is he just going to be the guy who doesn't get his turn until he gets it and then wins it? No, I'm happy that the US Open Challenge is still ongoing. Another great match. But like you say, it's Johnny Gargano. You know you're guaranteed a 3.5-star match as soon as you see his name's in it. But no, I'm really, really happy that this is continuing. It's helping him build himself up to a bit of a monster on the main roster, because he said it when he returned from injury and answered Sammy's challenges. Maybe a little bit of an unknown to some people who only watch the main roster stuff or just main roster hardcore. So no, pleasant. It's good to watch every Friday. The first hour is normally a battle to try and stay awake, so having it on the first hour every week is certainly helping.
I mean, it's the closest they've came to fully taking on board but we said a few weeks ago, and that they should have a quick opening promo in their first match within 10 minutes. I know I said less than that, but they're pretty close to it. It is always interesting to see the placement that's on the card, because I think sometimes it can feel buried in the middle, and I don't think it should ever be the main event, because it's known the main event should be a little bit more surprising, I guess. But the only concern I've got, Ross, in this is that, and again, I've got to raise this obviously as a storytelling podcast to like talk about the why and the where and the how, is these are all really good matches in isolation, but, and as Daz rightly pointed out, Dragunov just looks future world champion material in the ring, but how do they build a story that's compelling? Because it worked for Sammy, because his story's always been, I'm Sami Zayn, I'm an underdog, and I'm never going to be good enough. How did they then push this through with some sort of story?
It's really interesting to kind of figure out how to do it. I mean, as you say, we always speak about good wrestling matches can take you a reasonable amount of distance, but they cannot take you all of the way. They can take you like 80 or 90% of the way through. I'm not sure what that story is going to be for him just yet. I don't see it yet, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm not at the point where I'm demanding that just yet. I might get to that, like if we continued on into the new year and it looked like there was nothing, then that would be a problem for me. Unless, is the US title going to consistently be a rolling open challenge between now and Mania, where this might get dropped? It might get dropped more than once. Is that a possibility? I don't know.
The issue is you would need to have a face win it every time. And there's only so long you can survive having a face champion, especially if the unturnable Cody Rhodes is your WWE champion. So I think at some point a bad guy's got to win it. And what I'm really intrigued to see is where Gunther lands after the Time Is Now tournament, because that's a perfect story that's pre-made. There's a history with Giulia in there. It's just all about whether or not they're willing to move him to SmackDown, but also is he willing to be the mid-card guy again, even if it is just in the interim. I don't know.
I mean, you see the mid-card guy, I think if the two of them had a Mania or a SummerSlam match, it's probably going to steal the show in the ring anyway.
Yeah, but so what happens at the end of that? You then become the mid-card champion, yeah.
Unless it's post-Dragunov dropping. I mean, is it a situation where, as Ross says, it's a rolling open challenge and we get, rather than Intercontinental ladder match, it's a US Open ladder match at Mania. It allows somebody to come in, perhaps a Javon Evans that's clearly built for that type of match, somehow manages to win a ladder match without a ladder.
And jumps to the title.
I mean, I'm convinced if he took off from the ropes, he probably could.
It'd be pretty close.
It would be close.
That's what I'm saying. They'd probably find a way to do it. So, I think there's possibilities. I think it is interesting that no one from the current NXT roster has even dipped their toes in the water or looked or been linked. It's very much
perhaps the announcement on Raw. I think the announcement on Raw might have something to do with that. Yes. I did find myself scratching my head originally as to why I think Javon's the only person who's had a shot at it since the Open Challenge returned. So it's interesting that you bring that up, because it's something that was on my mind until I watched Raw last night.
Aye. It's weird though, because he's also the only one from NXT that's been announced for the Last Time Is Now.
There's still 4 matches to go, is there not?
There's still 2 mystery opponents as well that announced matches which we can get to. We talk about Raw and SmackDown later on, but it's interesting to say the least. It's never a bad thing to have a feud built on good wrestling matches, and that's what Gunther Dragunov is built on. It's built on what happens in the ring. But I think that's a perfect feud to transition Dragunov out away from a US Open Challenge, which is, when you're a good wrestler, it's an easy spot in the card, isn't it, really? You don't have to do much. You turn up, you go in the ring, you act surprised when somebody's music hits, and then you beat them. It's a good spot for a guy coming back from injury. It's a relatively straightforward spot. I'm going to stick with yourself, Ross, as our resident NXT expert, and we get to praise a call-up which we have been expecting for a while, and that is Lash Legend. I've got my notes here. What do we think of positioning the card? Now, Monday night made it interesting for me, because I thought that was a path for them. However, I think this is a great position. It's paired up with Nia. It's a powerhouse tag team, working with a vet. She's not going to be expected to go and challenge the US Open mid-card picture. She's US Open Championship mid-card title picture. She's clearly going to be kept away from Jade Cargill's picture at the moment. It's a really strong position in the card where she can be showcased week in, week out, and slowly build up that audience with the main roster. We saw what she did at the Rumble last year. She'll have a chance again this year, I'm assuming, to showcase as well, whilst having a little bit more rapport with the crowd in person.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's when she appeared, I actually thought initially that she may have been coming in to then feud again, but then no, they teamed up, and I'm really intrigued if this is going to be the formula that they're going to be using for a lot of these NXT superstars, where they are going to bounce in between NXT and the main 2 rosters, with the time between those bounces being shorter and shorter and shorter until they eventually just flip. I don't hate that at all, because I think that's maybe an example of this here. I think she could look really, really good. You know, you're going to have two like pretty like tall, imposing superstars, as much as I don't still massively like Nia Jax. She's certainly better than what she was a few years ago when I just couldn't stand her at all in a ring. At least there's something definitely there. Lash Legend is kind of what Nia Jax should be and could be, I think. I'm really interested to see how this goes, because it's a team that could work, and as we saw on Monday, it's a team that might have a little bit of legs. There could be some interesting feuds here that could keep this very watchable.
Yeah, and we'll not touch on it too much, because there is a little bit more in terms of the direction came clear from Monday night. Certainly, if she's involved at War Games, she'll have an opportunity to really show off what she can do, whilst in a match that ultimately is a spot fest. Let's be fair, that's what War Games is. there's not a huge amount of storytelling. But it's time to move on to the next story, and I'm throwing this straight back to Daz and giving you a few minutes to try and piece together the team's thoughts here, because a little bit of disappointment for us, because we all really think Chelsea should move towards the world title picture. Maybe this is a stepping stone. Giulia, I am utterly confused. I get that it was done in a screwy way to protect her, but it was actually a little bit of a dusty screwy. Like, it wasn't clean. It wasn't a clean screwy finish. It was a bit clunky. At least that's how I saw it in first view. And there is rumours that the plan is to move her to the world title picture, but surely after losing the title in 64 seconds or whatever it was, that's a bit of a stretch.
She had to drop it. It was doing nothing for her, and she was doing nothing for the title. Chelsea's the right person to hold it right now. There is no division, although some of the division has opened up on Monday night. So it'll be interesting to see who goes where. I actually thought that Lash Legend's the perfect person, having been called up to take this off Chelsea Green pretty quickly. Because I don't foresee them taking the tag team titles, although I do think they'll be in that picture. I would like to see Lash Legend really impose herself on SmackDown, and I think that beating Chelsea Green to a pulp and taking her title offers perfect way to allow Chelsea to repackage in time for what I tipped to be the Royal Rumble winner in the Saturday squash last week. So, I mean, I think losing in 64 seconds is better for Giulia than having Chelsea beat her in a wrestling match, because technically Giulia is one of, if not the best wrestler in the SmackDown Women's division on a technical basis, although one may or may not have dropped their tag team title on Monday night. So I just don't know what's next for Giulia off the back of this. I said it last week, if we're going to book Jade Cargill to be an all-squashing titan, I don't hate it, but I hate it if you're going to throw... I gave you two names not to throw at her. I like the Chelsea Green's US champ now, because it means she's not going to get eaten by Jade Cargill, but I now feel that Giulia might. But the writing was on the wall, because they moved whoever her manager was shuffled away somewhere else. NXT, I think she got moved to. Kiana James back to NXT. So the writing was on the wall for her dropping the title. I actually think... I don't know if she'll be off TV for a couple of weeks in the build up to War Games. She might be a surprise entrant. We'll need to wait and see what happens with Women's War Games and who the makeups for the final team members are. And then she might return post. She might even be a dark horse for the Rumble or something like that, just with not being on TV after dropping the title. So I think it was the right time to drop it, because the run was awful. But again, it's like every run so far. It's not really the holder's fault unless you're Zelina Vega.
I think you're right in what you're saying. I think the squash isn't the issue. It's the squash at the end of it's been a weak run, but it's totally on that division. It's the same as the Tiffy Stratton one. Like, we're all saying that having Jade Squasher made a lot of sense if you're selling the injury and moving the title over, because Jade Cargill isn't going to out-wrestle Tiffy Stratton in a 12-15 minute match. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not saying this because she's European. She isn't European. She just reminds me of Ilya Dragunov. Just put her on telly every week having good matches with good wrestlers and she would be over. I remember the pop she got in Saudi when she came in and she won a title. Huge. It's the best pop she had all year, and they just haven't built that momentum with the US crowds, and I don't know why. I'm not saying a manager was a bad thing. I just think that
it was a bad thing. No, it was a bad thing.
It was the wrong manager.
100%.
Having a manager was not a bad thing, but the person they picked was a bad thing. And I'm not necessarily blaming Kiana James. It's just because I look at Kiana James and potentially see a world champion there in terms of the build, the athleticism, the look, the presentation. Really? She looks the part. She can't wrestle, in my opinion, but she looks the part. But if she's been called up and she's brand new, she needs to get herself over, which means her job isn't. You know what I mean? She's not doing the job for Giulia. She's trying to do a job for herself. Mm-hmm. When Cesaro became a Paul Heyman guy, and all Paul Heyman did was talk about Brock Lesnar. Great, you're just burying the guy you're now supposed to put her over, and it was double points. That's what it reminded me of a little bit. It's like I don't dislike Kiana James as a performer. I don't dislike Giulia having a manager. I just don't think that was the right person at all. It didn't make sense. It did nothing for either of them. That's what we keep saying. It did nothing for either of them. It did nothing for the title. Time to move on to the last segment of SmackDown. Now, I'll just throw this open and one of you can jump in. Cody versus Aleister Black just does not scream main event match to me, because Cody's a perennial mid-carder who's jumped up, and Aleister Black is a perennial mid-carder who's probably a step below where he was 5 years ago, in my opinion. Through suspension, there's rumours that it's for filming. It appears that Highlander's filming in April, which is also interesting and concerning from a Homer perspective, because we all know what else happens in April, which could have a conflict.
See, I thought that he was meant to be available in December. I swear I read something that his original filming was actually meant to be December for his bit in Highlander. But then this has happened, and it makes me even more confused in general.
There is talk this is storyline, but it's a hell of a short suspension for an indefinite suspension. I don't know. It's left me confused.
I have 2 points on this, right? I'm done with the entire main event scene on SmackDown. Rip the whole thing up and start again with 10 new people. Get everybody who's involved in it, probably with the exception of Randy Orton, throw them away and bring in new bodies, because I'm so bored of all the shit that they churn out. And
so what do you want to talk about?
I get that, I get that if Drew needs to go film, we need to take him off TV, right? But I am sick of the revolving door of world champion has title, won't be on show with title because he has to go and film a movie. So these two guys will fill the void, and then the champion comes back. So those two guys disappear again, and then actually the guy that could have won and should have won the title didn't win the title because he needs to go and film early. So it's like, fuck it, I just get rid of it, just bin it all off, because if I need to sit and watch Cody versus Aleister Black at a PLE, I won't watch it. It doesn't excite me at all. I'd rather watch two broomsticks wrestle. I'm not, and that's not me exaggerating because I don't like Cody.
This, I would want to see. I'd want to watch that.
I'd want to watch Darren watch two broomsticks wrestle.
Honestly, I could make it.
Watch Darren watch the broomsticks wrestle.
I could make it more exciting than any Cody Rhodes match, probably with the exception of the SummerSlam one, because, well, obviously the GOAT was involved. But yeah,
Twitch.tv/DSG Quest.
But yeah, Drew's suspension. Who cares? Like, they're not booking him well on SmackDown anyway, so I'm not booking him to win matches. So they might as well not be on TV. The only thing I can think of that this is storyline and that it's somehow connected to War Games, which was announced last night by a wonderful English gentleman. So yeah,
number one in the favourite. Oh, that's the favourite Englishman.
I can only think that it's in some way connected to that nonsense. But yeah, I just bin the whole main event card off in SmackDown. I hope that the tease of Kevin Owens means that he is on his way back, because fucking badly needs someone who can talk on a microphone.
I think that's the most disappointing thing is that Cody's continually getting outworked on the mic by everyone he's feuding with, and that's why these people feel so compelling to take it off him, and then they'll do nothing. Drew and KO are both in that same realm. Again, peeking behind the curtain that is the Golden Shovel, I think we mostly watch these shows the next morning, apart from PLEs.
Speak for yourself.
Well, me and Roscoe, I'm speaking for the majority. That's why we see me mostly. However, I am watching everything with John Cena's name on it live because I'm not risking
loyal to the game. I'm loyal to the game. It might be awful, but I will watch the product.
But I'm with you. Like, if I seen Cody Rhodes versus Aleister Black was highlighting a show and John's not on it, I'm like, fuck it, I'll catch it Sunday morning. I'm not.
If they were wrestling outside my back door, I'd shut the curtains. I just have no interest in it. I don't know it. But honestly, disturbing the peace. I have no interest in it.
Some bastards on my trampoline.
I don't get it either. I don't get why all of a sudden is Alistair being moved in for this miniature. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Just at the point
where they've just kind of ran out of people like, well, Cody's not going to drop it, but we can't just
keep him off of TV,
what would have been good? So he just needs to be fed
for
someone.
2 weeks. See, for 2 weeks, just give him the Miz. The Miz will cook a 2-week promo, give him a title shot, and then let him lose.
Maybe we need
who cares?
him to have his own open challenge for a bit, just to fill some time.
I said it last week. Just have Giulia defend his title twice. I said it last week. Just have him open the show and close it.
Anyway, the point I was trying to get to him, I said, watch it mostly the next day. As I woke up on Saturday morning, normally I'll quickly scan through TikTok, Instagram, catch up, see what's happened, and then sit down once the dog's been walked and watch the show. And all I could think to myself about 8:30 on Saturday morning was, well, at least I can't be disappointed next week when Drew doesn't win the title. Like, that's all I could think. Like, I actually felt relief that he's suspended, because at least for the next few weeks, I know it's going to be shit, and I know Cody's going to ruin my Friday night, and I know people are harping on about ratings are down and stuff like that, and I do get it. Like, ratings were up because John Cena was on SmackDown every week during this for 4 months, whatever it was, on most weeks. And yes, realistically, why are ratings down? Because Americans are finally cottoned on to what a VPN is and they're watching on Netflix. That's probably what's happening. I'm not naive enough to think that it's actually killing ratings. However, the fact that I can't even be asked to watch these segments on Netflix when we skip the ad breaks and skip all the nonsense should tell you something. It's not compelling.
I wish we got the ad breaks. I'm not even kidding.
I know,
it's fucking horrifying.
It's just not compelling. It's one of the things where I'm like, I would love to know what's happening behind the scenes because I want to sit here and say that it's not his fault or it is his fault, right?
It's his fault.
We said for a long time Cena should turn heel, and he was always that decision was made for him. He was not allowed to. I don't know, is that the case here? Because if I was Cody, I'd be like, I have to go heel because
Cody doesn't want to go heel, and this may sound fucking obsessive or paranoid. Cody won't turn heel because his heel turn on AEW buried him. It killed him. He never ever recovered. And I'll be honest, he's far better served as a heel in WWE than he will ever be face or babyface for that matter.
He's still good enough and popular enough that if it doesn't work, he goes off telefilms, comes back to a pop. Like, he's got himself to the point like where Edge was when Edge turned heel when he started Judgment Day. He had to change his music to be a heel, and that's where Cody is. He'd have to change his whole presentation.
You know something?
That's a really good place to be.
I don't think he would have to change his music. He would have to change the demeanour. And what, like, see Finn Balor didn't change his music for the longest time, but he stopped doing it when he turned heel. He turned into the Prince. The less I could talk on it about Finn Balor in his presentation. But anyway, yeah, I think that, see, to be honest, I would be more inclined to like Cody Rhodes if he was the babyface like Austin who could become a bad guy. Like, not everyone will hate him type bad guy, but a bit like Kurt Angle on that as well. When they're the heel, you still want you would pay tickets to go and watch them wrestle, even though they're a heel. Do you know what I mean? Fuck them. Fuck the whole main event scene. Get out.
Again, though the ins and outs been decision making, and we said this last week, and I said this was starting to Adam, but he said it to me. Cody's been a terror's worse than anything Cena's done. Cena's lost the title 17 times. Look at the list of people he's lost the world title to. It's not just the other top guys. He has elevated other people
on the biggest stage.
I know we're always on the side of John Cena, right? Cody's lost it once and it's the greatest wrestler that's ever lived. He's, come on, do something for the business. As you said about the filming situation, he won the title back and fucked off for 5 weeks. It was just silly.
Pointless. Totally pointless.
It's poor booking. It's like, every time I hear his music, I'm just like, go in there and make it about yourself, Cody. Same with Triple H opened the show last night. He's like, go in there and make it about yourself.
Surely,
he didn't actually. Triple H did a good job, but
surely when you look back at it, right? Surely when you look back at it, the best thing they could have done was have John retain, then have them run it back in that epic match further down the line, but turn John face before he drops the title. But like, not the night he drops the title. Have him turn face before the build up to that match.
Have him turn face during the SummerSlam match. Have Cody turn heel and then have the follow up match in Perth or Paris or somewhere else where you get the mental count. I know, but anyway,
yeah, what's done is done. Hopefully
Monday Night Raw. We're sitting there. It's 1 a.m. Kenny Kings hits. Triple H is in the ring. The crowd goes fucking apeshit. He gives a hell of an introduction to the greatest wrestler who's ever lived. And John Cena comes out to an absolute unbelievable pop. We saw the rumours. There's a reason I was awake at 1 o'clock this morning watching this. The rumours were there. It looked like it was happening. How are they going to do this? Dom Mysterio interrupts John Cena. Now, I'm just going to let you guys talk in a second. I'm going to talk for a minute and let you guys just talk, because these are arguably our two favourite guys in the business at the moment. The guy who we've all loved watching for the last 25 years, who, despite my wife telling me his retirement's not going to affect your life, proves that she knows nothing about professional wrestling. And the guy
makes me doubt why you made it your wife, to be honest.
She was pregnant.
Fails, man. Fails. You know what I mean? Fails.
That's it.
And we were at, and the guy who we're pinning our hopes on to carry the next 25 years, to be honest. Again, I've got notes up, I've got various things open and people giving it an A and an A star and an A plus and that, right? It was a fine like Monday Night Raw match. It wasn't a PLE match, however, as we've always said, two guys who are enjoyable to watch, a hot crowd, fighting for something that matters, making you feel something as an audience member of a professional wrestling show. That's what wrestling's all about. I've seen people looking for clickbait on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok saying that Dom lost clean, he's never lost clean, wow, he sold his finisher, he buried him. I've come away from that going, we all know why John won. It was to tick the box, make him the IC champion. It adds some intrigue to this tournament. Does he drop the title next week? Does he drop the title in the last match? Does he hold on to it and vacate it and they do something in the new year where they crown somebody else. My actual lasting thought of that is, I don't think Dom needs to go and win this back. I think Dom looked really strong. It's like, wow, here's a young guy who did the job. I know John's nearly 50, but did the job that needed to be done for the purpose of the storyline. Looked amazing doing it. Get booed at the fucking building, but still get his point across. I thought it was, again, from a story point of view. Again, I know in the match John's old and all that kind of stuff. From a story point of view, I thought it was near perfect. And I know we're never going to put John down, but John Cena wins the IC title on the possibilities which we'll talk about in a minute. Dom Mysterio, to me, in that match, looked like a guy who, if they decided not to just flip it back, is going to be absolutely fine. And again, strap that rocket, point it to the moon, and fucking fire it, because he's ready.
Yes, I do not disagree with anything that you've said. I too sat up to watch this last night. I was fucking delighted that it opened the show, because I was not waiting all night for it, let me tell you. But yeah, everything about it was perfect. Now, Dom has been loved for so long, it just shows you the adoring fans that John Cena has, that he got that nuclear heat every time he tried to speak.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see Triple H's face though with the first time the crowd reacted? Because he knows he's got a star.
Yeah, 100%.
He knows he's got money maker.
And there's a couple of things at the output of the match that I'm really, really interested in. I don't think Dom wins the tournament now. I also don't think Dom is going to be taking this back. I really, really don't. I already have a vision for who wins this title, and I hope to God it's this person.
I hope it's the same person.
I think so. It probably will be. It makes more sense.
Is it Joe Henry?
No, it makes more sense to make another Grand Slam champion off the back of this. And literally pass the baton makes the most sense against an old adversary. When that happens, I don't know, because I also don't think that person realistically wins this tournament. So, the GOAT, Dom Mysterio. So good of him to put John over. But no, I actually predicted this as a bit of an outside shout when we recorded the squash before any of this was announced. I think he's ready to win the Royal Rumble, and I predicted it in the squash. Honestly, I don't see what's stopping the guy. The guy is so hot that if he wins the Rumble, man, fucking give him the world title. I don't care. He's ready, in my opinion.
Do you know the only thing that might stop him winning the Rumble is that I think he would be the greatest Money in the Bank contract holder of all time.
There's nothing to stop him doing both in a year, because it's not impossible. It really, really isn't. He's the kind of guy that I don't know, man. I've been saying it for months and months and months. He doesn't have to win the world title at WrestleMania, even if he wins the Rumble. But he might be one of the guys that's so hot that he just cannot lose that match. They pulled the trigger on Jay when he was over. They pulled the trigger on Steph Vicaire. They pulled the trigger on Tiffany Stratton. I don't know, man. The business model suggests you pulled the fucking trigger on Dom as well. So I'm really, really intrigued, because I don't think he fits the War Games match, which I know we'll get to. I don't think he fits the makeup of that, the way it's headed. I certainly couldn't tell you what team he would be in if he did fit the makeup for that. I couldn't pick a side for him. He's done a lot of work off TV and matches on tours with CM Punk, and he's been wrestling top talent. My time to take him off the bench and put him in, coach. He's ready to be QB.
Coming over to yourself, Ross, on this, as I alluded to it there, I think him and I are aligned that we would love to see Sheamus versus John Cena one last time, because I mean I said right at the start of this run that I wanted to see the hits and I wanted to see full circle moments, and obviously how Sheamus won his first title. I think it'd be a great opportunity to tell a story. Again, I personally agree with Daz that I think this could happen next week rather than in December, which would be fine. So just your thoughts, where do you think it goes in terms of who's next? I mean, you could also just go back to Dom, but also what's your take as a resident NXT expert on the announcement? Because I thought the wording that he used, that was going to be an exhibition,
really odd. Yeah, it was really odd.
I think the way I took that, Ross, was that a suggestion that it's not going to be like when we had brand supremacy back in the day, and not to expect too many NXT stars to go over, but to expect them to be showcased to a wider. That's how I took it.
So like
some people
matches, but take the L. Yeah.
Yes.
It's really interesting, because it's kind of taking the thing that we were kind of posing about it being a one-match card and actually putting a really, really nice spin on it where, yeah, the other matches technically don't really matter, but they do matter. And it's a really, really interesting way of doing it. I really like that. I cannot work out what they're going to do just because they're just drip feeding us these names of who are going to be in these matches. It's almost like I kind of want to see the first round of them to then go, right, this is where I think they might go, because there's so many question marks.
Starts on Monday, doesn't it?
Started last night.
I mean, it really starts on Monday as well. Because we get the mystery opponent on Monday.
Aye. The first one's
That'll probably tell us.
The one that was announced last night. The one that was announced last night.
Aye,
yeah, I didn't see who that was.
Aye, because Old just announced a mystery for
Friday
as well.
Last Friday. Yeah.
Because that probably tells us a lot of, obviously, like Oba is still missing. Just for an example, we throw a name out there. Oba's still missing and has been on NXT in weeks. I thought he would have went over there to kind of like square off the invasion angle, and then they just kind of done a one and done with that. And
the showcase angle.
Yeah,
showcase
angle is probably fairly reasonable to suggest he's going to be in that, and maybe that's where the feud starts in SNME onwards. I don't know. Maybe there's your call.
I think this is going to be a 6-match card. I think it's going to be a 3-hour show purely because it's John Cena's retirement. Because if you're calling it exhibitions, you can't fit 3 other matches into and what will be an hour and 20 minutes, really. Because John's not got an hour in him to run. John cannot go for an hour. And
you probably want 10 or 15 minutes after his match as well, once the bell rings, to do something.
Exactly. And if you're given NXT the chance to a platform as an exhibition to go and show what they can do, it can't be 10-minute matches. They need to get 15 to 20 minutes realistically. And it just doesn't fit into a 2-hour show. So I think it might be slightly longer because is this the one that's going to be on Netflix? Because remember there was chat about
they've said that last time and then it disappeared.
Being on Netflix. So it might be this one where they get to control essentially how long the show lasts. But yeah, I agree with you, Ross. I think that it makes matches that don't matter. I think it's really, really interesting.
It means you're not rushing other stories to be ready, because there's only like a 2-week gap between War Games. You're diverging back. You're not rushing stories for it. You're not holding stories back. It's like it's a one-off show. John Cena's match is the main event. That's going to matter the most. These matches don't matter from a storytelling point of view. It's just here's somebody you might see in Saudi Arabia in a month's time, or here's somebody you might see post WrestleMania. Get to know them. I think it's probably
I'd also like to think there'll be multi-man. There'll be multi-man and multi-women, hopefully. It won't just be one-on-ones. I'm hoping to see some fatal four-ways, some triple threats and stuff, and just give a couple of the NXT guys and girls a chance to really go and put on a show, albeit as a Saturday night main event.
See some tag team matches where we might get Randy Orton tagging up with somebody from NXT, or you know what I mean, that type of thing. And
I really do hope we get. I saw someone mention this on Reddit this morning, actually, where if we had like Orton Miles Born and it's the Spider-Man meme. Each other. That'd be really funny.
I think this is the best thing they could have done. It immediately it's told us how they're going to do it, so there's no guesswork for the next 2 months or 6 weeks. But
oh my god, it's 4 weeks away.
It's essentially a 1-match card, but it's not. And I thought it was really clever. Do you want to have any thoughts and suggestions as to these mystery opponents? If I was to throw Part of me does think Friday night could be Mr. Henry, just because
I think just the way they did it makes me think that because he didn't want to say his name, because if he said his name would appeared early and spoiled it. So
I said no.
Made sense.
I was on Reddit, right? And what they've said is that you have to say his name for him to appear, but saying his name doesn't guarantee he'll appear. Like, he won't appear without his name being said, but it's not like a every time. It's a prerequisite, but it's not a guarantee. It's part of the whole. It's part of the lore. It's been clarified.
I get it.
But I've got a wild prediction for next Mondays.
I think I know who it is going to be on Friday night. I think it'll be Nick Nemeth on Friday night. It's an old adversary of John Cena. I think Friday nights will be Nick Nemeth for TNA. Mondays, however, really intrigues me.
Yes. Because who he's facing? A SmackDown superstar?
Yes. I'm really, really confused by it. And I'm not going to speculate too much on that one. I need to really sit and mull it over and think it over for that one. But I do have my suspicions it'll be Nick Nemeth on Friday night.
I'll throw out my suspicions for next Monday and say that I think it could be Roman.
Don't hate
I wouldn't hate that.
I just wonder, does he get does he finally beat Roman 1-on-1? Is that the last match? Because Roman can take it.
That's an option.
I don't know.
It's
It's
an
just
option.
interesting.
It's literally the only guy in the tournament who could take the L, unless it is a Chris Jericho or an Edge or something. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, it's just it feels as though Roman versus Cena is the one that's missing. That's possible. I know we want to see Edge, right? But we've had Punk, we've had AJ. It feels like it's one that's missing for this run. I don't know, maybe, but he's also a guy who doesn't need it.
Mhm.
Clearly, he is the best, and that has been the last 5 years. I think we just wrap that first segment up and say that, considering that there was only one outcome to that match, it was done really, really well. People. This is the same thing, right? See, it's an internet will sit and look at the ending, and go, "Oh, John Cena no sold the finish," and John Cena buried Dom Mysterio, forgetting that the match went 15 minutes plus, and there was a great promo before it. I will say one thing: as soon as John Cena just stopped him and just went sort of good speech, I was like, "Oh, he's about to get kicked." Here he goes.
The promo was the most impressive part for me, is that you can tell that they don't want to bury Dom. You could tell Cena not took it easy, right, but that didn't cross the line in terms of like, I'm going to like when he did it to Roman and said, "I'm going to shrink you down to size." Like,
the only reason I'm stories is you can't do your job.
All that kind of stuff, and just absolutely rinsed them. Dom doesn't need what Roman needed back then, because that was a kick up the arse Roman needed. Dom doesn't need it. He said in multiple interviews that Dom's the next big star, that Dom's the guy who works his arse off 5 nights a week wrestling and carries the show. So really, really cool way. It's the perfect way for Dom to drop his title.
Bear in mind,
nobody will argue.
Triple H built John Cena up with the speech and intro, and for those in audio, I'm holding my hands up high here to this level. You can say he's the GOAT, he's the best, he's done this, he's the best in the mic, best in the ring, best at this, best at that. Then you bring out Dom, and as you say, it's done in such a way that he appears to hold his own, strong throughout the match. You're like, do you not understand? You didn't bury him, you've measured him up against the greatest to ever do it, and all MD's coming away for that show is saying, like golf clap to Dom Mysterio and strap that fucking rocket.
Yes, please.
Let's take us on lovely to War Games. I'm just going to throw open a question here. Number one is I really don't like. There's two questions I want to throw out here, and you can pick who wants to answer each question, right? The first one is, and it's the question I put in the notes and the agenda, is it would be nice to ultimately see a War Games that actually is telling a long-term story. I guess in the division side, maybe it's harsh because Rollins is out injured, but certainly the face team that appears to be being built is just a collation of people who are ultimately rivals. Like if LA Knight ends up in that match, which based on the way he's been treated the last 2 weeks isn't going to happen, it's a guy he's been feuding with Jericho and Punk, and Jericho's been feuding with CM Punk. Like it's a bit like, I used to hate the brand supremacy stuff, because it's like you're pretending to be friends with people you've wrestled with all year, and then next week you need to go back to hating them. You don't actually care about SmackDown. That's, you know what I mean, you're raw. That's no big loyalties lie. So it'd be nice to see one that does do the stories. What are your thoughts on that? Is like, at least MFT versus YX6 is there's a story there versus what's happening also. It's multiple stories being chucked out. Like Logan Paul is now front and centre of this whole thing, despite not being on telly for months.
That's to fill Seth Rollins' slot and
it's to
Logan's.
fill the rock, but it doesn't make sense in the story aspect. It makes sense from needed somebody, and he's a good spot guy for as a spot fest match.
But it'll be exactly the same as the brand supremacy stuff. Once War Games is done, he will be discarded and will not be part of the vision long term.
So that's the first question I'm going to throw to the group, is your thoughts on telling a story versus pulling people together for a match. The second question is the rumoured Vision plus heel team, which would be Braun, Bronson, Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, and I forgot the fifth name, that's great.
Did you not just literally talk about him?
I'm Logan Paul, sorry.
Yeah.
There you go, forgot about Eddie. That's I mean, Hogan must pose right, Cody Rhodes, but that team's unbeatable. But unfortunately, on paper, that team can't lose.
It's not, because if you look at the other team, it's Cody,
bitch,
Punk,
bitch. John's
going to be in it, judging by their handshake after he won the title backstage. I actually think that I'll answer your first question, right? And I don't think I'll be disappointed watching arguably 10 of the biggest names in the business right now in the one match. I don't hate on Jay, man. Jay's alright. That's no, don't slag him like that. He is one of the biggest names in the business right now. He's one of the most over. So I don't hate the fact that the 10 biggest names are all going to be in the same match. I just don't really get it. I would much. That sounds outrageous to say out loud. I'd much rather watch the Tongans and all that in the War Games because they've been telling a story as a team of 10. Well, 8. They've been telling it at 9, really. 10 if you include Nikki Cross, right? But
it
I'm
depends
not
what
going to
you
put
get
her
as
on
well.
it. Yeah. But they've been telling that story together for a while. And it seems like the perfect place for that to culminate and have a definitive end. But if that's not going to be in War Games, where does that end? Does it end with MFT just taking tag titles in a 2v2? Like, I don't really get it. So, yeah, very, very confused by the whole situation. As I say, it's going to sell tickets. If you're going to have the 5 biggest people, I mean, Roman's surely the other face in that match, assuming he's available. You're just going to have the 5 biggest faces versus arguably the 5 biggest heels, depending on where you class Dom Mysterio. I class him as somewhere in between but above. So yeah, I would much rather watch one that tells a story in the long run. Although I do feel that this match will culminate with Brock Lesnar eyeing up the World Heavyweight Championship as a almost, well, he will pin CM Punk and then probably rip the other two to shreds as well. B&B security will be downgraded again because Brock is back in business.
Ross, your thoughts on that same question? And I mean, are we throwing a pin eater into this match? Is that what they're going to do?
Maybe.
Everybody in LA Knight. Penta. Put Penta in.
Yeah,
Finn
he's the
Balor
usual one.
finds you into the match.
Pin Balor, yeah.
I think the men's one does seem like it's going to be just here's a cobbled together collection, go fight. The women's one looks like it's going to have a bit more of a story to it. So when there's that balance, I don't mind it as much. I do prefer it if you can get a natural story out of it. But I think by the letter of what War Games kind of is, I think you are always going to get situations where you just have to chuck something together and go, look, it is lots of big names fighting each other. What more do you want? As Daz says, you're going to be happy enough, really, aren't you?
Maybe
it just confuses me, though, that like the normal formula is world champions or the biggest names on your brand assemble a team, which usually consist of either your mid-card champions or your tag team champions. Is normally how it was built differently from the old brand supremacy stuff, but also kind of the same in the way that, like you say, Saunders used to build a team of 5 guys who didn't really have any in-ring chemistry as a team, because you used to end up with guys like Matt. You used to get like guys like Shawn Michaels would build a team. He'd have Matt and Jeff Hardy, but he'd have Viscera and like, I don't know, Simon Dean or something like that. Just it made no sense back then. So yeah, it feels a little bit like that.
Even like Team Rated RKO having Mike Knox as the 5th member or
something. Yeah.
Shawn Michaels
almost like they literally had a raffle backstage to see who got to be the last member.
Make a wish.
Oh my God, John Cena. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm much more looking forward to the women's one myself, although I can't really pick 2 teams of 5 right now based on the amount of names that are floating around, especially by the next point on the agenda and what on earth is going on with the women's world title.
As we do that transition, I'm just going to say that, as I said at the start of this segment, I think there's maybe a little bit harsh that if you looked at the likely plan for War Games, Owens plus B&B as your core on one side, the other side being Punk. Roman's got a history with Rollins, that's fine, and he's been feuding with him all year. And
Roman and Jey Uso would have made sense.
And Jey Uso makes sense. So I think at that point you're only adding probably one mercenary on each side, Brock on one side and whoever. I think because you have to bring in Logan Paul and John's kind of floating about, it does suggest, it probably feels more tucked together, whereas if it wasn't for the injury, I think it probably makes more sense. I do think the difference is that the women's stories that you're going to get here that are converging are a little bit deeper rooted, like Kabuki Warriors versus Io and Rhea's been bubbling all summer, all year. You've now got Lash Legends and Nia Jax there, which is, again, an opportunity to showcase Lash Legend. Ultimately, I think Becky will be the 5th heel, and if AJ Lee ends up in the face team, I think that's a story that's been bubbling for a while, or it could be Maxine, but there's stories there. Are
you putting Charlotte and Alexa in, or are you putting Bayley and Lyra?
I don't know, because you've just made a valid point there that as we're transitioning here, are we going to have Steph and Nikki in that match as well?
Steph and Nikki won't be in it. They will be wrestling for the world title, I would think.
So I don't know. I would have said Alexa and Charlotte until I saw Charlotte's tweet, which suggests that they are mutually going to agree that that's it. It's a one and done thing, which I think I'm more than happy with as the end to their feud. I think I'm glad it's not a split, it's an amicable. Yeah, we've lost the titles, we'll do our own thing now because they've been great value all year.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll save the women's chat to the main event segment because I'm watching the time here and just say that, Ross, we'll come to you because I think Daz and I will probably start swearing at the camera in a second really vehemently, but why is Nikki Bella in 2025 in the main event picture wrestling a woman who has been top 5 in the world this year? Probably.
My assumption is purely just to give her a big name, a name that is well known within women's wrestling. Slightly different era to this one, but a big name nonetheless. She did get a pop when she came back, but she's ultimately being fed to La Primera so that she can go over and beat a big name. That's why I think it's being done. I can understand that there's lots of different people that could be the one who's in that position to be ultimately fed to La Primera, but I don't necessarily dislike it because I don't think it's going to be a very long thing. I think it's going to be a couple of weeks. Stephanie Foucault beats her. That's it. Nikki Bella goes away again. It's kind of how I see it.
I hate
just
it.
Just as a transition over to you, Daz, I know that's what we're going to say. I did all dare to Steph's had a hell of a year. Starting next week with the Saturday Squash, we're going to start counting down our long list, a short list of our top wrestlers, male, female, matches, worst events. Yes, it will be WrestlePalooza. Of the year, I built the long list. These guys are going to debate. I'm going to narrow it down to a short list of between 3 and 5 for each category, and at the end of December there's going to be an award show where we give the golden shovelies, first ever golden shovelies to everybody. Steph,
I'm going to go full Michael Scott for the shovelies, by the way.
I mean, Steph, because of that weird layout where they had to really pull her back, probably holds it back. But what a year she's had! This feels like it does feel like a filler feud. That isn't it's able, but can you just talk about what you think on this feud as a whole? Is it a one and done? But also, I just think once again, Raquel Rodriguez looked the fucking part and a singles competitor. And at some point, she needs a push.
I have said it before, and I'll say it again. I said it when we were talking about the vacated title when Naomi had to give it up. The wrong person won the title. Kel should have won the title. And right now, we could be running that feud between Raquel and Vicaire, where Vicaire comes out on top to win the title.
After she's got to overcome Roxanne helping.
100%, right? And that's the way I would have went with it. But again, like I said about Dom, when you're that over and you're that hot, sometimes you just have to strap the rock. And I don't hate it. I really, really don't, right? But let me tell you what I do hate, right? And I'm not just going to be as blatantly outright and say I hate Nikki Bella, right? But I hate Nikki Bella.
So did Boston, by the way.
The issue I've got, that's probably because of the hometown boy. The issue I've got, Ross, right, is that I agree. I agree with Ross in essence about what he says, right? That it's given her I do not agree it's big name, and that's why I took my headset off. Nikki Bella is like not a big name. She's not even the biggest Bella.
That she's not even a big name.
She's not a big name. Anyway, she's not. Right, she's not. Anyway. So what you could have fed her Vicky Guerrero by your meaning then? Which I probably.
I think we'd all watch that.
I was watching that.
The point I'm making, right, is that yes, these returns or these legends, if you want to call them that, returning for a couple of week program with a world champion, especially a new one, is okay and is all right to fill a 2-3 weeks. I think it's the 4th time in 2025 I've had this. I'm bored of it, and this is Nikki's second comeback. We've had Trish Stratus, which yes, it's great to see Trish Stratus, but also go away Trish Stratus, like Chew. We've had Lita before. I'm just like.
And technically, AJ Lee's was the same. We've seen her once.
Yeah, well, very true. We were told it was a multi-million-pound, multi-year deal, and she's not here. So, but yeah, the point I'm making is that it almost feels like here on Raw, you can wrestle Raquel Rodriguez and look the business, right? But see, when we go into one of our biggest 4 shows of the year, we're going to give you someone who is really bad at wrestling in the modern era, and you're going to have to go and put on a show and uphold that. We all seen how bad it was. The last time she wrestled on TV, she was nowhere near the level she needed to be. And
Stephanie's a very technical wrestler. It's a performance in the ring.
She works with her partner. It looks to me and this isn't for me, right? I think it'll be a great feud for people up until the bell rings, but not for me, because I don't rate Nikki Bella across the board. I never ever have, but I always thought Brie was much more compelling, both on the mic and in the ring. I thought Brie was much better, but I don't get what this does for Vicaire, because there's no way Nikki comes out on top of this feud unless you want to just totally burn all momentum that Steph Vicaire ever had. But beating Nikki Bella doesn't do anything for her. It really doesn't. I think the first feud should be Raquel Rodriguez, establish yourself as that champion, then take on a Prodigy or something like that. And see, once you've, like Roxanne, and then see once you've had a couple of feuds as champion, that's the right time to throw in the filler like Nikki Bella for a couple of weeks, because no, I think, see, if you surveyed 100 people who wants to watch Steph Vicaire wrestle Nikki Bella, I'd be surprised if 10% or more actually actively said, of all the women that could run this program right now, that's the one I want to see. Just don't buy into it.
I think my closing thoughts on it are, it's obviously somewhere in the middle. I do get what you're saying, that on paper Nikki Bella had a long Divas title reign, but that era of women's wrestling wasn't what we're in now.
It wasn't women's wrestling back then.
It wasn't women's wrestling. It was Divas wrestling. It was different, but I do get it. It's a filler feud. My biggest concern is that I actually slightly disagree. Well, I disagree with you said that it's one of the feuds that you'll enjoy until the bell rings. Steph Vicaire's weakest area of a game is the promo right now, and it's because she's still learning English as a, like, because when you learn a foreign language, you learn how to speak it properly, like formally. You don't learn how to speak it naturally. You know what I mean? Like, it's, the way we talk is not how somebody would learn English. So she's building that up, and you're putting her in somewhere who's not great in the mic, is a bit screechy, who's not going to perform in the ring, and I'm like, this could tank. Not, it could tank her in if it's a poor feud. It's a bit like, it could end up being like Tiffy's run on Smackdown, where it's just the feud just doesn't captivate us, and suddenly we're like, you need to take the title off her just to save her for a few months. Whereas, as you say, I think Raquel's good enough, and we've seen enough for this year, that because she's been held below the level of main event, that she could lose that feud and still be okay for a title run next year or whenever. I think it's much more compelling. You can have them shout at each other in Spanish, and
yes,
as long as certain words are obvious and certain attitudes, or the crowd would still buy into it. So I don't know. I struggle to see what it will do for her, and that's where I am. Again, I haven't watched Nikki Bella, and I'll say it because I'm not why I just saying about shit Nikki Bella, but having watched Nikki Bella and watched AJ Lee wrestle after 10 years, it didn't do anything for me at all as a wrestling fan. And
she's not the only one. She's not the only one. No. Trish Stratus wasn't great when she came back either. Tiffy carried her through the match.
I think Lita got away with it because it's a different style of wrestling though.
Yeah, but she almost broke her neck doing that moves. She's clearly, and this is the, who wants to remember our first feud? Our first proper feud has been Nikki Bella. Is that really what we want? Do you know what I mean?
No, I think it's a valid point, and I just, where do you go? I do think that there is a bit of a concern there, and Liv Morgan's injury, and I also don't know what's happening, but whatever the plan of the Judgment Day is, it feels like been the holding pattern for 2 or 3 years now. Are they waiting for it to come back for this split? Because Dom needs to go off and do his own thing. Balor and McDonough can do their own thing, or Balor can go and do his own thing. McDonough's another guy who said he could get a push. Raquel and Roxanne, when they were tag champions, they weren't really defending it. The tag titles look important, and suddenly they're not in the picture because as if they're waiting for Liv Morgan to come back so they can do the split angle. And I'm like, just do something with their talented.
I don't think they'll split entirely.
You'll fracture.
I think Dom and Liv. I think Liv will take Raquel, Dom will take Roxanne, and JD and Finn will have to go back to the tag division, but just as their own, and then they'll probably have a wee break up and feud with each other. Because I just don't see how you break up a group of that size with all those moving parts. It's really, really tricky. But Dom dropping the title is the right time. To pull trigger on this. It's perfect time. None of them hold any gold now. Let's just break it up.
Maybe that's the catalyst for Liv's return, which I think would be much needed. Especially because it gives you one more person that you can move to SmackDown and figure out whatever the fuck is going on over there out. In the women's division. And the main event segment was, you know what, it was a really good match. I loved the counter of natural selection at the Asuka lock. And you're sitting there watching that match and you're like, you could run back Asuka versus Charlotte at a top tier PLE and we'd all sit and watch it and be like, this is a great wrestling match. And even with, Charlotte being at least a step slower with the post-knee injury. It was a good match. It was a solid match. The story, it has advanced the story. It's why I just think the women's War Games is potentially more compelling, because the story's there, the showcase for Lash Legends there. You've got flexibility with the 4th and 5th spots either side. Ross, does this feel like a match that could push the story on rather than the men's match, which feels a little bit just, here is 5 good guys and 5 bad guys?
I think this could. I think even if they have done what it looks like the would have managed to kind of set it up in the space of a week, it looks like it might have more legs to fuel a couple of things on. And I think that then strikes a nice balance between, as we say, here is a group of people and they're just going to fight because they're just going to fight. Whereas now in the women's side, there's motivations there, and there's clearly, regardless of what the result is for which side wins, you can walk it through the path that they might take going towards Survivor Series and Mania, and onwards and onwards and onwards. And I think there's a stat now that I'm sure I read that it's Io Sky has been involved in every single one of these now since it became a main roster thing, which is a class little stat that I read. I enjoyed that.
Shouldn't the NXT ones?
I think she's literally been in every women's War Games match.
Yes, because she usually wraps herself in a dustbin and throws herself off the top of the cage.
Yeah, she off the top of the cage inside a bin. She's that good.
Speaking of that, I appreciate that setup for the segue, because in my transition notes here, I was throwing it to Daz to say, Daz, would you like to talk about Rhea Ripley and Io Sky? And
at great length.
I guess not just the reaction they got, but slowly maybe looking towards us ranking our top female wrestlers of the year, because the two of them are not only the brilliant, again, that word compelling, they've almost been more compelling as we've moved them away from world title picture and said, right, let's give the world title picture a break for these two people. I know Io put Steph over, but that was perfect. What a reaction. And that's a reaction like that for two women at the end of your main event of a 3-hour show where the greatest of all time opened it and peaked the crowd 2.5 hours before is something that, I'm not saying it's new because we've seen it with A-Man, Becky and Bayley over the last few years, but compared to where we were in the Divas era, is a phenomenal place to be for women's wrestling.
I think you could argue right now, right, that Rhea Ripley might actually have become the greatest women's wrestler of all time. And I don't mean just in a technical sense, I mean as the overall package. I think she has ascended beyond any woman I've ever seen. She's almost a bit like Roman Reigns. And what is now the modern era is that she now no longer has to be attached to a world title or even, to be honest, any pre-built story. Her presence alone is guaranteed a pop. She can return in the manner that she did on Monday night. I actually think she's ascended beyond needing to be booked. I think she's just a mere presence, a bit like Roman is, that I don't know if she needs to be on the show every week now. I think that she's been very honest about her desire to be in the new Terrifier film, which, please to God, let that happen.
How many times have you watched this film? Yes.
Yeah, I know. But I do think that that's the next logical step for her, is to go and become an absolute megastar outside of the business. And I don't think there's been another one in women's wrestling. She's obviously not going to be the only one to have gone and done some acting and broadened her horizons, especially if you ask Mandy Rose. But but yeah, I feel like she's ascended beyond anything else I've ever seen in women's wrestling. Flip that onto the other person you asked me the question about. She is the greatest women's wrestler in terms of technical ability. So you find yourself in a really, really interesting spot where you have these two in the same team and somehow have to convince you that the other team can win. And I really, really like all the possible outcomes, and that's what excites me about the women's matches. There's so much going on that literally anything could be the catalyst to end the match. They're not all necessarily allies or faces and heels. It's a bit like, I'm joining you because of this and that. And yeah, I like it. It's good. I'm really, really interested in this. See the main event, like the main event last night. See, I was watching it in the dying embers of the morning, and then was woken up abruptly by the return of both of these people. It actually got me thinking. See, if you look at the tag teams, probably with the exclusion of Kabuki Warriors, right? But maybe not by exclusion. The women's tag title scene, right, is Charlotte and Alexa thrown together tag team, two of the biggest names in women's wrestling. Bayley and Lyra, one of the biggest names in women's wrestling and one of the soon-to-be biggest names in women's wrestling, put together because they don't have a product to work right now. Lash Legend and Nia Jax, an up-and-comer and a vet because they have nowhere else to go right now. You could argue it's the same with Kabuki Warriors, although they are more of a ready-built tag team, they have that history. But it's a top-class women's wrestler and a very good women's wrestler who has been recently reintroduced back into the product. And it got me thinking that there's not actually a proper tag team in there. It's just a mishmash of main eventers and mid-carders who have been thrown into teams and have made compelling women's wrestling tag team matches. Right?
100%.
So it got me thinking, how awful is the Raw tag team division? How many people do not get a push? How many people do not get TV time? Why don't we just package up some of these Rey Fenix and Andrade-esque tag teams? Throw them into the mix and just have a bit of this for a while until such times as you have a place for these people, because I don't know, man, a women's tag team wrestling, even I seen it main evented last night, I thought that's very bizarre that that's slated to main event, especially with the GOAT about to become a Grand Slam champion. But obviously the double return is the reason why, the catalyst behind that. But it just got me thinking that there's so much underutilized talent on obviously SmackDown as well, but you've only got 2 hours. But why not just unify the tag team titles again, make some makeshift tag teams and throw them all at each other? Because
if you need makeshift tag teams, like you're sitting there, I'm sitting there, so obviously when I put together the rough outline for this podcast, I've got to cut certain things that either I kind of asked talking about, we don't think are worthwhile talking about, and get the time down a little bit. And the one thing I cut this week was Rey Fenix against Talatonga, because the big picture of the MFTs is what's the actual programme of the Y6 is looking like. Rey Fenix lost that match after having a good summer, and yeah, he's been let down with the Andrade situation because that was a really good tag team. His brother's in the other show, up and down every week, and I'm like, what if you just had that ready-made tag team? Again, I know we think there's a plan there for possibly Penta and AAA, but
it's exactly the point I'm making, is that we've got 2 guys who are so over with the crowd, who the crowd love to watch, but we're not doing anything with them. Why not just throw them into a tag team on Raw or SmackDown, throw them into the title picture, get a bit of buzz about your Raw, your SmackDown tag team, and then it's just a perfect idea to split up 2 brothers, have them feud with each other, and then there you go, 2 guys who were doing nothing are now doing something. It got me thinking last night when I was watching the main event. But back onto the main purpose of your question, Kabuki Warriors won the titles at the right time.
Here's a question for you, then. I'll get to you, Ross, because I think you've half answered this there, Daz, what you just said, so throw a direct question at you, Ross. Who's had the better year? The women's side of the roster, the men's side of the roster?
Women's side, and it's probably not that close. I think that when we've had the conversations recently around best matches, around best promos, around best feuds, it's consistently been, with the exception of 1 or 2 of John Cena's matches at major events, it's consistently been the women that have been showing up. Even situations where Becky versus Maxine Dupree, something that you would have probably, if there was a guy equivalent, just went inside if you heard it, has become compelling, and that is a feud that has just kind of came out of nowhere. So yeah, to me, if it continues on the trajectory and it comes to our sort of end of year or end of season awards, there's going to be a heck of a lot of women's talent on that award slate. If there's going to be the equivalent of a Razzie or an actual video, there could be a lot of guys looking at it.
I actually think recency bias might be playing a factor here in what we think, because the men's card is so fragmented right now with injuries and folk being off to film right now, and so that should have won a world title and didn't, so that's another man buried. I think we're overlooking a lot of what has been very good about the men's roster this year. You've had a first-time world champion in Jey Uso, made himself one of the most over guys in the company. And I obviously won't go through absolutely everything, because we'll talk about this as the weeks and weeks develop. There's so much that's happened. You mentioned John Cena. John Cena has arguably had match of the year 3 times in this run. So, and I know that people didn't like his WrestleMania match, but he won his 17th world title. It's like some of the biggest moments of the year. 3 of them include John Cena. Unfortunately, 2 of them involve Cody Rhodes. But but then also, on the flip side, you do have women's moments, and I don't know is the answer to that question. I would probably, and I'm a huge advocate of the women's wrestling, I have been since we started this podcast, but see, the more I think about it and the more I look back, tag team TLC matches and the men's side and Smackdown, and I just think, are all of the women putting it as much as all of the men? But I think, see, at the very top level, you're probably looking at Io Sky and Rhea Ripley are like doing a lot better than most of the main event guys. So it's trying to balance that out, but I don't know, I would probably lean towards men. You've thrown that at me though.
It depends. I just something to think about is the fact few weeks. I think it depends on where you place the highest highs and the lowest lows, because the US
Look at the women's title on
US women's
SmackDown.
title is down here,
Awful.
but the IC title has been brilliant. And then
But it was up until recently. Stagnated recently.
And then the Raw tag team division for the men's was horrendous for a long time. We spent every week we were moaning about it, and then the SmackDown one was really hot, and then again, recency bias might suggest that it went a bit quiet because they went for these weekly matches that were just bangers to dragging it out. So,
but then I think all the 4 world titles have been pretty awful this year, because Io didn't defend her title for like 2 months and then dropped it. Obviously, but you obviously get the cash in for Naomi, and that's amazing. But then she drops it because she has to run. Yeah, I don't know. But if I was hard pushing, I had to pick right now, I'd probably go men. But I'd need to sit and break down the data and really look at that.
It's an interesting conversation, which is exactly what we're going to do on a topic by topic, and we'll split it up men's and women's. But when it comes to feuds of the year and shows of the year, we'll be putting some of these matches head to head and some of these feuds head to head and saying, actually, you know what, this person's done a phenomenal job because of X, Y, and Z. As much as we all love John Cena, and that, let's face it, he's winning men's wrestler of the year. I've already decided that.
21 anyway, Ross. If you disagree, it's 21.
We could quite rightly could turn around and say, well, actually, he's almost went back to a part-time run. He's missing too much. Would be a fair challenge. The same with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the best in the world at wrestling, and has been for years. But the constant returns is really hard to manage. And it would be tough to look as well at, like Io Sky. How often have they had returns this year, because they're off and they're on, and as you say, Io Sky spent 5 weeks doing 10-second backstage segments and then thanking Nikki Bella for paving the way, which is just fucking ridiculous. So I think it's a really interesting conversation. Isn't it one for one episode? This is why we're starting long list to short list 6 weeks before the end of the year to try and figure this out. With that being said, this week's squash, and we're going to recall, it's going to be us picking 3 huge burials each from the history of the WWE, or at least our time as fans, and pitching them as the worst of all time. A little bit fast and loose with the rules, and say that, you know, it's not necessarily burying one person, but it could be this just killed the whole story, or this killed the whole programme, or this killed whatever, a show or match concept or anything that was something we really enjoyed, and then that's one decision made it completely stupid and never worked again. It'd be interesting to see you guys' thoughts on that. But ultimately, the closing for this week's episode is that the GOAT has finally completed the Grand Slam in WWE. John Cena is the Intercontinental Champion. Dom Mysterio, the future GOAT, has made himself look once again an absolute star, and doing so and getting beat clean, but for 15 minutes looked absolute part of his world champion. The sad thing is that there are now only 3 dates left. We have next Monday in Madison Square Garden. We have the end of the month Survivor Series War Games, and of course we have that show in the middle of December where John Cena finally retires from the WWE. Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.